Hello mis amores and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing great. I hope you're having an amazing day. And today I'm very nervous because I'm welcoming you to a very different kind of a video. The kind of video that I've been wanting to do for months now, which I've also told you guys about in a video at the beginning of the year. I don't even know which one it was. I then have already recorded a similar video, edited it, but never uploaded it because I got nervous and anxious and kind of, I don't know, didn't feel like uploading it. But the thought never really left my mind, and so here we are, and this time I hope I'm actually gonna upload this one. So what are we doing here, you wonder? Especially in the middle of the week, I decided I wanted to try and upload a second video every week, and I basically want to read to you guys. Even though I always really got nervous at school, I actually really liked reading aloud. And also, this might obviously not be true for all of you guys, but many of you have said that they like listening to my voice, that they think it's relaxing. Therefore, I thought, why not take it to the next level and basically, yeah, read to you guys, and you can listen to it, you know, when you want to relax or whenever, if you're just interested in the stories that we're gonna read, or to fall asleep to, because visually not a lot will happen in this video. This is more of a listening kind of a video. I hope for this to be a regular thing, so I want to upload a new story every week. I've already planned the stories for the next couple of weeks, but if you've got any suggestions, I'm more than open to them. And so without further ado, I think we should get to our first story. I've struggled a lot finding the first story, and I've come to the conclusion that there's no perfect way to start this series. I was really sure about one story that I wanted to read to you guys because I really enjoyed it, but it's a little deeper, which isn't bad, but I just kind of wanted to start this series on a lighter note, and therefore I changed plans, and now we're gonna read a story out of Rainbow Rowell's new book, Scattered Showers, and out of that book we're gonna read Kindred Spirits. Just so you guys know, this will be the longest intro in this series, but I obviously had some explaining to do as well. But now I think I've said it all, and therefore we can get started. I hope you enjoy. Kindred Spirits. Monday, December 14th of 2015. There were already 2 people sitting outside the theater when Elena got there, so she wouldn't be the first in line. But that was okay. She was still here. She was still doing this. She grabbed her sleeping bag and the backpack she'd stocked with books and food and antibacterial wipes and got out of the car as quickly as possible. It looked like her mom might make one last attempt to talk Elena out of this. She rolled down her windows to frown at Elena directly. "I don't see a porta potty." Elena had said that would be a porta potty. "I'll figure it out," Elena said quietly. "These guys are figuring it out. They're men," her mom said. "They can pee anywhere." "I'll hold it," Elena said. "For 4 days?" "Mom," Elena said. And what she meant was, "We've been through this. We've talked about it for weeks and weeks. I know you don't approve, but I'm still doing it." Elena dropped her gear on the sidewalk behind a tall white boy who was second in line. "Okay," she said cheerfully to her mom. "I've got this. See you Thursday." Her mom was still frowning. "See you after lunch," she said, then rolled up her window and drove away. Elena turned back to the line, smiling her best first day of school smile. The guy next to her, he looked like he was probably about her age, 17 or 18, didn't look up. First in line was a big white guy with a blonde beard. He looked old enough to be one of Elena's teachers, and he was sitting in a fold-out camping chair with his feet propped up on a giant cooler. "Hey," he said happily, "welcome to Star Wars, man. Welcome to the line." This, she quickly learned, was Troy. He'd been in line since Thursday morning. "I wanted to invest at least a week in this, you know? I really wanted to gather my focus." The younger guy, Gabe, had gotten in line Thursday night. "There was a couple who hung out with us Saturday for a few hours," Troy said, "but one of them forgot her sunglasses, so they went home." Weak. Elena hadn't brought any sunglasses. She squinted into the sun. "I'm guessing this is your first line," Troy said. "How can you tell?" she asked. "I can tell," he said, chuckling. "I can always tell. It's Gabe's first line, too." "We were 8 when the last Star Wars movie came out," Gabe said, not looking up from his book. "Revenge of the Sith," Troy said. That wasn't much of a line anyway. It was no empire. Nothing is, Elena said. Troy's face got somber. Hear, hear, Elena. Hear, hear. Alright, so she'd expected there to be more people here. The Facebook group she'd found, Camp Star Wars Omaha, had 85 members, not including Elena, who was more of a lurker than a joiner. This was definitely the right theater. The Facebook posts had been very clear. Maybe it was Troy who'd posted them. Elena had planned to continue her more lurker than joiner strategy in the line. She thought she'd show up and then sort of disappear into the crowd until she got her sea legs, her line legs. It was a pretty good strategy for most social situations. Show up, fall back, let someone else break the ice and take the spotlight. Somebody else always would. Extroverts were nothing if not dependable. But even an expert midtrovert, like Elena, couldn't lie low in a crowd of 3. Though this Gabe kid seemed to be trying. Elena was going to be there for 4 days. She was going to have to talk to these people, at least until someone else showed up. Cold enough for you? Troy asked. Actually, I think I might be a little overdressed, Elena said. She was wearing 3 layers on the bottom and 4 on top, and she had a big puffy coat if she needed it. If the temperature dropped dangerously low, which would be inevitable during a normal Omaha December, she'd have to go home. But the forecast was pretty mild. Thanks, global warming. What were they thinking when they scheduled this movie for December, Troy asked. They weren't thinking of us, I can tell you that. May, he said, shaking his head. May is when you release a Star Wars movie. If this were a May movie, the line would already be around the block. Lucky for us, I guess, Elena said. We gotta be first. Oh, I'd be first no matter what, Troy said. I'm here for it, you know. He cupped his hands around his lips and shouted, I'm here for it. Me too, Elena thought. Elena couldn't remember the first time she saw a Star Wars movie. In the same way she couldn't remember the first time she saw her parents. Star Wars had just always been there. There was a stuffed Chewbacca in her crib. The original trilogy were her dad's favorite movies. He practically knew them by heart, so when Elena was little, like 4 or 5, she'd say they were her favorite movies too, because she wanted to be just like him. And then as she got older, the movies started to actually sink in, like they went from something Elena could recite to something she could feel. She made them her own, and then she'd kept making them her own. However Elena changed or grew, Star Wars seemed to be there for her in a new way. When she'd found out that there were going to be sequels, real sequels, Han and Leia and Luke sequels, she'd flipped out. That's when she decided to get in line. She didn't want to miss this moment. Not just this moment in the world, but this moment in her life. If you broke Elena's heart, Star Wars would spill out. This was a holy day for her. It was a cosmic event. This was her planets lining up. And Elena was going to be here for it. Her left foot was asleep. She kept kicking the sidewalk, then stood up to bounce. Is your leg asleep again? Troy said. I'm worried about your circulation. It's fine, Elena said, stamping her foot. She'd only been sitting for 2 hours, but she was so bored she could hardly stand it. She could literally hardly stand. Even her blood vessels were bored. She brought lots of books. She'd planned to read Star Wars books whenever she had a quiet moment in line, which was every moment so far. But the wind kept blowing the pages and the paper was so bright in the sun that reading made her eyes water. None of that seemed to bother her silent Gabe, who read his paper bag without seeming to notice the sun, the traffic, Troy, Elena, or Elena's mom, who kept driving by slowly like someone trying to buy drugs. The Imperial March started playing and Elena answered her phone. Why don't I pick you up now? Her mom said. Then you can get back in line when there are more girls here. I'm fine, Elena said. You don't even know these men. They could be sexual predators. This doesn't seem like a very good place to pray, Elena whispered, glancing over at Gabe, who was still absorbed in his book. He was pale, with curly milk chocolate-colored hair and rosy cheeks. He looked like Clark Kent's skinny cousin. You know you have to be extra careful, her mom said. You look so young. We've been through this, Elena said. They'd been through it a lot. You look 12, her mom would say, and Elena couldn't really argue. She was short and small. She could shop in the kids section, and the fact that she was Vietnamese seemed to scramble non-Asians' perceptions of her. She was always being mistaken for a kid. But what was she supposed to do about it? Act like a kid until she looked like an adult? Start smoking and spend too much time in the sun? Just because I look 12 doesn't mean you can treat me like I'm 12, Elena would say. I'm going to college next year. You told me there'd be other girls here, her mom said. There will be. Good. I'll bring you back after they get here. I've got to go, Elena said. I'm trying to conserve my phone battery. Elena, I've got to go. Elena hung up. The first theater employees started showing up around 2. One, who looked like the manager, a Latino guy in his 30s, wearing maroon pants and a matching tie, stopped in front of the line and crossed his arms. So we've got a new addition, huh? Elena smiled. He didn't smile back. You know you can buy your ticket online, right? I already bought my ticket, Elena said. Then you're guaranteed a seat. You don't have to wait in line. Elena said, that's okay. You can't talk her out of this, Troy said. She's a true believer. I'm not trying to talk anybody out of anything, the manager said, looking harried. I'm just explaining that this is an unnecessary gesture. All the best ones are, Troy said. Now open the doors. My bladder is about to explode. The manager sighed. I don't have to let you use the restroom, you know? Give it up, Mark, Troy said. They tried that during Phantom Menace, and it didn't work then either. I should make you hoof it to Starbucks, the manager said, walking toward the front doors and unlocking them. Troy stood up and made a big show of stretching. We take turns, he said to Elena. In line order. She nodded. The manager, Mark, held the door for Troy but was still looking at Elena. Do your parents know you're here? I'm 18, she said. He looked surprised. Well, all right, then I guess you're old enough to waste your own time. Elena was hoping Gabe would open up a little while Troy was gone. They'd been sitting next to each other for hours now, and he'd only said a few words. She thought maybe he was being so quiet because he didn't want to get Troy going on one of his stories. Troy had so many stories. He crammed out for every Star Wars opening since The Empire Strikes Back, and he was clearly pleased to have a captive audience. But Gabe, with his navy blue pea coat and his gunmetal glasses, just sat there reading about the history of polio and ignoring her. When Troy came out with an extra-large sack of popcorn, Gabe nodded at Elena. Go ahead. I'm fine. I just got here. She wasn't fine. She had to pee so bad she was worried she was going to leak when she stood up. Gabe didn't move, so Elena got up and walked into the theater. The manager kept an eye on her the whole time, like she might sneak in to see a movie. She should. It was so warm inside the building. When she got back outside, Gabe took his turn. We have to save a spot, Troy said, and look out for his things as if they were our own. Code of the line. He held his bag of popcorn out over Gabe's sleeping bag. Elena took some. What invalidates the code? She asked. What do you mean? Like, are there any circumstances where someone loses their spot? That's a fine question, he said. I mean, some things are obvious. If someone takes off without telling anyone or leaving any collateral, they're out. I think there's a time limit too. Like, you can't just go home and take a nap and expect to come back to your spot. Everybody else is here earning it, you know? You don't get a free pass for that. Though there are always exceptions. There are? We're human. We had a guy in the Phantom Menace line who had to leave for therapy. We saved his place. But another guy tried to go to work. He said he was going to lose his job. We pushed his tent out of line. You did? Popcorn fell out of Elena's mouth. She picked it up. That's brutal. No, Troy was grave. That's life. We were all going to lose our jobs. I camped out for 3 weeks. You think I got 3 weeks vacation at the zoo? You worked at the zoo? You gotta sacrifice something for this experience, Troy said, refusing to be sidetracked. That's why we're here. You've gotta leave some blood on the altar. I mean, you heard Mark. If you just want to see the new Star Wars movie, you can buy your ticket online and then forget about it until showtime. But if you want to wait in line, you wait in line, you know? Elena was nodding. Gabe was standing on the sidewalk. Did you just vote me out of the line? He asked. Troy laughed. No, dude, you're good. You want some popcorn? Gabe took some and sat down. Elena had been imagining this day for months. She'd been planning it for weeks. This wasn't what she'd been expecting from the line experience. This was more like being in an elevator with 2 random people. Like being stuck in an elevator. Elena had been expecting, well, more people, obviously, and more of a party, a celebration. She thought it would be like all of those photos she'd seen when she was a kid and the last Star Wars movies came out. All those fans out on the streets and communing with each other. Elena had been too young to camp out then. Her dad wouldn't even let her see the prequels. He said she was too young. And then, when she grew up, he said they were too terrible. Let's just corrupt your love of Star Wars, he said. I wish I could unsee them. So even though Star Wars was Elena's whole life at 10, she didn't get to go to the party. She was 18 now. She could do whatever she wanted. So where was the party? The afternoon was even more mind-numbing than the morning. Her mom drove by 3 or 4 more times. Elena pretended not to notice. She read a few chapters of a Star Wars book. Troy pointed out that all the expanded universe books weren't canon anymore. Disney erased them from the timeline. Elena said she didn't care, that she liked them anyway. At nightfall, people started showing up for the evening movies, and Troy got into a fight with Mark about refilling his popcorn. It says, endless refills, same day only, Troy said. You're perverting the intent, Mark said. Elena kept hoping that some of the people walking toward the theater were there to join the line. There were 2 30-something guys in Star Wars shirts who looked like good candidates, and a few college girls who looked nerdy enough, but they all walked right by. Elena had stripped down to her Princess Leia t-shirt, but now that the sun was gone, she started reapplying her layers. Maybe her mom was right. Maybe Elena should leave and come back when the line really got going. What would Troy say? There was an Asian girl who hung out with us for a few hours. Then her mom made her leave. No, this was it. If Elena bailed, she couldn't come back. She wrapped herself in her sleeping bag and pulled on a woolen hat with a big red pom-pom, taking a few more years of her appearance. The fight with Mark seemed to have left Troy in a funk. He put in earbuds and watched Netflix on his phone. Elena watched him hungrily. She was dying to use her phone. Her whole world was in there. Sitting outside in the cold and dark would be so much more bearable if she could read fanfiction or text her friends. But she only had 1 backup battery pack to last 4 days. At least it was still bright enough to read. She was sitting just below a lit-up Star Wars poster. Her mom pulled up in front of the theater again at 10. Elena got up and walked to the car. I don't like this, her mom said. People are going to think you're homeless. No one will think that. Homeless people are going to bother you. Probably not. I talked to D. Janet and she said you can buy your movie ticket online. That's not the point. It's just that, her mom rubbed her temple. Elena, I think this is the dumbest thing you've ever done in your entire life. That's a good thing, Mom. Think about how much worse it could be. Her mom frowned and handed her a warm-covered dish. You answer your text tonight. I will. Elena stepped away from the car. Don't worry about her, Troy shouted from behind her. She's in good hands. Elena's mom looked aghast, but she still drove away. I'm sorry, Troy said. Did I make that worse? I'm in the hands of the line. It's okay, Elena said, finding her spot against the wall. Mark, the theater manager, came out one more time to give them a last call for the bathroom and concessions, which was pretty decent of him. Troy was asleep by 11, stretched out on his chair with an inflatable pillow wedged between him and the wall. He'd wrapped himself in fleece blankets, tipped his head back, and that was it. Elena had planned to roll out her sleeping bag and sleep lying down. But that was back when she'd imagined a few dozen campers. It was different with just 3 people, and she felt too exposed at the end of the line. If she fell asleep lying down, someone could just drag her away in the night, and Troy and Gabe would never notice. She didn't think she was afraid of Troy and Gabe themselves. Troy hadn't said anything pervy yet, not even about Princess Leia. And Gabe seemed painstakingly uninterested in Elena. Her mom didn't trust them, but her mom didn't trust any guys. She used to have it in for white guys. White guys are the worst. They rap 2 Live Crew lyrics at you and expect you to laugh. But ever since she and Elena's dad had separated 4 years ago, her mom had taken a stand against any and every man, especially where Elena was concerned. Learned from my mistakes, she said. Learn what? Elena wondered. Avoid men? Avoid love? Avoid radiologists who buy movie replica lightsabers? Usually when her mom gave her warnings like this, Elena would just give her a little thumbs up, like, no prob, Bob. Because it really wasn't a problem. Avoid men? Done. This had literally never been an issue for her. When other girls complained about how to deal with unwanted male attention, Elena wouldn't feel jealous exactly, but she would feel curious. How does one go about attracting such attention? And is it impossible to attract just some of it? Just a small, manageable amount? Or was attention from boys all or nothing? Like a tap that, once you'd found it, you could never turn off? Elena's teeth were starting to chatter, and it wasn't even that cold out. but the cold of the ground had crept through her sleeping bag, through her jeans, through her long underwear and tights, and settled into her bones. "You've got to put something under your sleeping bag," Gabe said, "or get off the ground." She looked where his butt must be. He lifted up the side of his sleeping bed. He was sitting on a cardboard, 2 or 3 pieces. "Does that work?" she asked. "It helps," he said. "Well, I don't have a spare box on me." Gabe sighed. "Hold my spot." He got up and shuffled out of his sleeping bag, walking down the street and disappearing behind the building. When he came back, he was carrying a few big cardboard boxes. "You take mine," he said. "What?" "Move up unless you don't want to sit between us." "Move up unless you don't want to sit between us. Troy's an excellent windbreak." Elena shuffled over to Gabe's pile of boxes, pulling her things with her. Gabe quickly made himself a new nest and settled down again. "It does help," Elena said. "Thanks." She tested her instincts to see if she felt any less safe sitting in between these 2 strangers than she did on the end. No, she felt about the same. "You just want me to have to listen to Troy's stories," she whispered. "We can switch back in the morning," Gabe said. "Do you know him?" she asked. "Troy?" "I didn't know him before," he said, "but I've been sitting next to him for 4 days. Gabe picked up his book. "Thanks," Elena said again. Gabe didn't answer. Tuesday, December 15th of 2015. It didn't seem like Elena had slept, but she must have. She woke up slumped over her backpack with a patch of cold saliva on her chin. "Star Wars!" Someone was shouting from a car driving by. "Star Wars!" Troy shouted back, raising his fist. Yes! Elena thought, Star Wars! That's what this experience needed. More Star Wars. Elena was going to rally, so this wasn't the jubilant, communal, public display of affection she'd been expecting. It could still be something. It could still be memorable. She'd make it memorable. "What does the code of the line say about going to Starbucks?" she asked. Troy answered, "Totally acceptable as long as you bring back some for us." Elena walked the 6 blocks to Starbucks and hung out in the bathroom for a while, painting little Yodas on her cheeks. She had the Starbucks barista write character names on their cups. Troy was Admiral Akbar, Gabe was General Dodonna, and Elena was Mon Mothma. When she got back to the line, she took out her phone and carefully took a selfie of herself with the guys behind her. Gabe wouldn't look at the camera, but Troy played along. "Third in line," Elena posted on Instagram, which sounded much better than "last in line." "I dig your face paint," Troy said. "I got a costume, but I'm saving it for opening night." "Do you always wear a costume on opening night?" "Oh yeah, usually I camp in it." "I want to hear about your costumes," Elena said. "You mean opening night costumes? Or all my Star Wars costumes, including Halloween and May the 4th parties?" "We want to hear about all of them," she said, glancing over at Gabe. "Right?" Gabe was looking at her like she was out of her mind. After they got through Troy's costumes, Elena quizzed him about highs and lows from past lines. Then she suggested they play Star Wars trivia, which she quickly realized wasn't a good idea because she couldn't answer any questions about the prequels and she didn't want Troy and Gabe to guess that she hadn't actually seen them. Elena could have seen them by now. She could have watched all 3 prequels after her dad moved to Florida, but it still felt like she'd be betraying him. And even though her dad had betrayed her by leaving, she didn't feel like watching Star Wars movies just to spite him. That seemed like it really would corrupt her love for Star Wars. A Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack. Elena's mom drove by a few times that morning. Elena just waved and tried to look like she was having the time of her life. Nobody new got in line. The highlight of Tuesday afternoon was when a photographer from the newspaper came by to take their picture. "I'm looking for the Star Wars line," he said. He had an oversized camera with a long black lens. "That's us," Troy said. "Oh," he squinted at them. "I thought there were supposed to be a real line, like with people in costume." "Come back on opening night," Troy said. "My Poe Dameron will knock your socks off." The photographer looked at Elena's cheeks. "Is that Shrek?" "It's Yoda," Gabe snapped. "For Christ's sake." In the end, the photographer shot a close-up of Troy holding a photo of himself waiting in a much more interesting line 15 years ago. It was a humiliating setback for them as individuals and for the line as a whole. Ugh, they weren't a line. They were just 3 cold nerds. They were 3 suckers who showed up for a party that didn't exist. They were statistically insignificant. After the photographer left, Elena didn't start another cheerful conversation. Gabe excused himself to walk around the block. Troy watched TV on his phone. Elena took out her phone just long enough to take a photo of her flowered sneakers. My legs are permanently asleep, she posted. #line problems. Then she immediately put her phone away before she could start wandering around online and enjoying herself. When Gabe came back, he was frowning more than Elena had ever seen a human being frown, even her mother. It was the longest afternoon of Elena's life. By Tuesday evening, deep malice had set in, Luke staring into both sons of Tatooine malice. Elena hid her face whenever moviegoers walked past. She only perked up when her mom came by around 10. Gotta keep up appearances. When Elena stood up to go to the car, her whole body felt numb with cold and disuse. Her mom shoved a hot water bottle out the window. Here. It was so hot that Elena dropped it. Thanks, she said, picking it up. I don't think George Lucas would want you to do this, her mom said. I didn't know you knew who George Lucas was. Please, I was watching Star Wars movies before you were born. Your dad and I saw Empire Strikes Back 5 times in the theater. Lucky, Elena said. George Lucas is a father of daughters, her mother said. He wouldn't want young girls freezing to death to prove their loyalty. This isn't about George Lucas, Elena said. He isn't even that involved in the sequels. Come on, her mom said. We'll watch Empire Strikes Back and I'll make hot cocoa. I can't, Elena said. I'll lose my place in line. I think it'll still be there for you in the morning. Good night, Mom. Her mom sighed and held out a venti Starbucks cup. Stay warm. I'll leave my ringer on tonight in case you change your mind. Elena sat down with her coffee and tucked the hot water bottle into her sleeping bag. It felt amazing. Call your mom, Gabe said flatly. I want to watch Empire Strikes Back and drink hot cocoa. She realized now that the coffee was set up. It was 2 a.m. Elena was going to wet her pants. She looked up the line. Troy was wrapped in sleeping bags and a polar fleece like a mummy. Gabe had pulled his knees up and tucked his head down a few hours ago. Elena had been sleeping badly. She felt groggy and out of sorts and her bladder actually hurt. She kept fidgeting. Gabe lifted his head. What's wrong? Are you cold? No, Elena said. I mean, yes, of course, but no, I'm going to wet my pants. Don't do that, Gabe said. I can't help it. What am I supposed to do? Go pee somewhere. Where? I don't know, behind a car or something. That's illegal, Elena said, and gross. Not as gross as peeing your pants. Elena closed her eyes. Where have you guys been peeing? Inside the theater, he said. Don't you ever have to go at night? He shrugged. No. Elena felt tears rolling down her cheeks. Don't cry, Gabe said. That won't help. She kept crying. It was going to happen soon. Okay, he said, standing up. Come on. Where are we going? To let you pee. We can't leave without telling Troy. He said, code of the line. The code of the line also includes not soiling it. Come on. Troy had an extra large Coke cup and Gabe grabbed it. Elena got up carefully and followed him around to the back of the theater. Okay, he said, holding out the cup. You go behind the dumpster, pee in this cup, then put it in the dumpster. What if there are cameras? Elena asked, taking the cup. I can help you there. This isn't Mission Impossible, you know. But what if I need to pee more than this? I don't know how much I pee. If your bladder held more than 44 ounces, you wouldn't have to go to the bathroom constantly. She stood there, biting her lip. Elena, yeah? You don't have any other options here. Pee in the cup. Right, she said. She walked carefully to the other side of the dumpsters. I don't want you to listen. Is this the first time you've peed around another human being? Around a guy, she shouted. Yes. I didn't ask for this, Gabe shouted back. He started humming loudly, the Imperial March. It made Elena feel like her mom was coming. She carefully peeled down her layers and hovered over the cup, trying not to touch it and trying not to splash, still sort of crying. Gabe kept up the loud humming. When Elena was done, she put the lid on the cup and walked out. Okay, she said. Gross, you were supposed to throw it away. I'm going to pour it down a storm drain, so it doesn't spill on anyone. Whatever, Gabe said. When she disposed of the pee in the cup, she sat back down next to him and dug in the bag for a wet wipe. I should just go home, she said, scrubbing her hands. Do you have to pee again? No. Then why do you want to go home? Well, obviously I'm not prepared for this. She waved her arm around, encompassing the cold, the line, the trash can, the storm drain. And it isn't how I thought it was going to be. How do you think it was going to be? Gabe asked. I don't know. Fun. You're camping on a sidewalk with strangers. Why would that be fun? It always looks fun in the pictures. Like tent cities and people meeting in line and making friends for life, getting matching tattoos. You want to get a matching tattoo with Troy? You know what I mean. She threw her wetted up wet wipe onto the ground. I thought it was going to be a celebration, like a way to be really excited about Star Wars with a bunch of other people who are really excited about Star Wars, like in Troy's stories. Like the time they all camped out for 2 weeks to see Return of the Jedi and ended up with soulmates and nicknames. The practical jokes that went on for days. The lightsaber battles. You could still end up with a nickname, Gabe said. Right now I'm thinking something to do with pee. Or cups. Elena wrapped her sleeping bag tighter. Maybe refill. And then I can call you Phil for short. Why are you here? She asked, ignoring him. If you knew it was going to be miserable. I'm here because I love Star Wars, he said. Same as you. He folded his arms on his knees and tucked his head down. But you don't even talk to me, Elena said. To either of us. Gabe made a sarcastic noise, like, humph. No, seriously, she said. What's the point of getting in this line if you don't want to experience it with other people? Maybe I just don't want to experience it with you, he said. Have you thought of that? Oh my God. She scrunched up her face. No. I haven't thought of that. Is that true? Why are you so mean? It's not true, he grumbled, lifting his head. I'm just tired, and I'm not a people person. Sorry I'm not meeting your Star Wars dreamline expectation. Me too. She rubbed her hands together and blew in them. Why didn't your friends wait in line with you? Gabe asked. Then you could have had your party line. None of my friends like Star Wars. Everybody likes Star Wars, he said. Everybody likes everything these days. The whole world is a nerd. Are you mad because other people like Star Wars? Are you mad because people like me like Star Wars? Gabe glowered at her. Maybe. Well, she said, my friends do like Star Wars. They're gonna see it this weekend. But they don't like it like I do. They don't get a stomach ache about it. Why does Star Wars give you a stomach ache? I don't know. I just care about it too much. I wasn't trying to call you a fake geek girl, Gabe said. I didn't say that you were. I mean, you obviously know the original trilogy inside out, and that's not even important, but you obviously do. I've yet to determine whether you're a fake geek boy, she said, pulling her sleeves down on her hands. He laughed, and she was 90% sure it wasn't sarcastic. Here's what bothers me, he said, glowering slightly less, but still looking frustrated. I'm a nerd, right? Like, obviously. Classic nerds. I hate sports. I know every weird A1 song by heart. I don't know how to talk to most people. I'm probably going to get a job in computer science. Like, I know those are all stereotypes, but they're also true of me. That's who I am. And the thing about nerd culture being mainstream culture now means that there is no place to just be a nerd among other nerds without being reminded that you're the nerd. Do you follow me? Only sort of, Elena said. Okay. So, if I go to a football party at my brother's house, I don't know anything about football, and I'm the nerd. And if I go dancing with a friend who likes to dance, well, I don't dance, and I don't like loud music, so I'm the nerd. But now, even if I go see a comic book movie, the whole world is there. So I'm still the nerd. I would have thought that a Star Wars line would be safe, he said, waving his arms around the way Elena had. No way I'm going to feel like a social outcast in a Star Wars line. No way I'm going to have to sit next to one of those cool girls for 4 days. Whoa, Elena said. I'm not a cool girl. Give me a break. She held up her index finger. I feel like I need to say that everyone should be welcome in a Star Wars line. Socially successful or not, but also, whoa, I'm a nerd. You have friends. You have a clique. You walk down the hall like you own the place. You seem to have mistaken me for the movie Mean Girls, Elena said. Also, are you saying you don't have any friends at your school? Have you considered that maybe it's your silent pouting that drives people away? I have friends, he said. That's not the point. So you have friends, but you think I have a clique. I'm pretty sure of it. I feel like you're projecting your clearly very problematic girl issues on me, she said. Gabe rolled his eyes again. I thought you said you couldn't talk to people, he said. You don't seem to have any problems talking to me. I'm having a lot of problems talking to you. Okay, then let's stop. Was Gabe really mad? She couldn't tell. Was Elena mad? She also couldn't tell. Yes, Elena was mad. Who was Gabe to take her inventory like this? He didn't know her. And he was giving her zero benefit of the doubt. She'd been giving him nothing but benefit of the doubt for 36 hours. For what it's worth, she said without looking at him, I haven't thought, whoa, Gabe sure is a nerd, even once since I sat down. He didn't say anything. Elena squirmed. She wrapped her sleeping bag as tightly as she could and rearranged her legs. I get it, he said. You think I'm a jerk. No. Yes, but no. I have to pee again. You just went. I know. I can't help it. Sometimes it happens in waves. Can you wait? No. Gabe sighed and stood up. Come on, let's go back to the dumpster. I threw away the cup, Elena said. You still have your hot water bottle. No. Gabe clicked his tongue like he was thinking. Elena started rooting through her backpack. Everything she'd brought was in plastic bags. Uh-huh, Gabe said. He reached behind her sleeping bag and pulled out her Starbucks cup. This is perfect. It's already got your name on it. They left their sleeping bags and shuffled to the back of the theater. It was no less humiliating for Elena the second time around. You're definitely getting a nickname, Gabe said when they sat down again by the wall. Elena crawled into her sleeping bag, feeling more unbelievably tired than unbelievably uncomfortable. Like maybe she'd be able to get some sleep for real now. I was born at the wrong time, she said. And in the wrong climate. It should be 1983, and I should be sitting outside Mann's Chinese Theater in Hollywood, California. They're camping outside the Chinese Theater tonight, Gabe said. Troy says we're all one line. I'm probably last in that one too. She rolled away from Gabe and fell asleep. Wednesday, December 16th of 2015. The Force Awakens, Troy shouted. Elena pulled her head down over her ears. Come on, Elena. We're hoping you'll go get coffee again. Because I'm a woman? No, because you probably have to pee, Gabe said. Elena did. Fine. Tell me what you want. 20 minutes later, she was staring at herself in the Starbucks mirror. She was starting to look like someone who had slept on the streets and washed up in Starbucks bathrooms. There'd been an actual homeless person sitting outside the Starbucks when Elena walked in, and it made her feel like a big creep to think she was doing this for fun. It wasn't even fun. She told her barista their names were Tarkin, Rears, and Ozzel. Feeling your dark side today, huh? Troy said when she handed him his cup. Pretty much, Elena said, dropping to the ground. Fear, anger, hate, suffering. T-1, Troy said. One more day. One more day. I can't believe we've waited 10 years for this, though honestly, I never thought it would come. Real sequels. What's your favorite Star Wars movie? Gabe asked. Uncharacteristically, Elena looked over at him. You might as well ask me who my favorite child is, Troy said. Do you have children? Elena asked him. I meant hypothetically, Troy said. He exhaled hard. This is tough. This is really tough. I'm gonna have to go with The Empire Strikes Back. The next half hour was taken up by Troy justifying his choice. At several points he considered changing his answer, but he kept landing back on Hoth. What about you, Elena? Gabe finally asked. She frowned at him, suspicious. Empire, she said, for all the reasons Troy just said, plus the kissing. What's yours? Episode 6, Gabe said. Jedi? She asked. He nodded. Solid choice, Troy said. Very solid. Gabe didn't expound. Instead, he turned back to Elena. So, what's your least favorite? Why do I have to go first? You don't have to, he said. No, it's fine. Jedi. I still love it, but yeah. Troy acted like he'd been shocked. Jedi? Gabe was shocked too. You think episode 6 is worse than episode 2? Worse than Anakin and Padme frolicking among the Chalks? The Chalks? Troy said. Geonesis. Those sounded like nonsense words to Elena. She didn't want to be found out. She bit her lip. I wasn't really considering the prequels. You said least favorite, not worst. Ah, Troy said. You did say that. True, Gabe said. They moved on to Troy's least favorite. 3. The violence just strikes me as mindless. And then to Gabe's, 2nd. 2. Love on the fields of Naboo. And then Troy had to take a call from his girlfriend. So, Gabe said to Elena, who's your favorite character? What are you doing? Elena said, talking about Star Wars. Why? I thought this was what you wanted. So now you're trying to give me what I want. Gabe sighed. Not exactly, just maybe you were right. When? She asked. When you said that the point of being in this line was to be excited about Star Wars with other people who love Star Wars. Of course I was right, Elena said. That's obviously why people camp out like this. Nobody leaves their house to sit outside a theater for a week just so they can ignore other fans. So I was getting in my own way, Gabe admitted. Okay, Elena said carefully. So who's your favorite character? He asked again. You'll probably think it's basic. I'm not a jerk, he said. People who are jerks don't get to decide whether they're jerks. I disagree. I do not identify as a jerk, so I'm not going to act like one. Fine, Elena said. Princess Leia. Great choice, he said. She was still suspicious. What about you? The thing about Gabe being nice to Elena for unknown, suspicious reasons was he was still being nice to her. And interesting. And funny. And good company. She kept forgetting that it was all an act and possibly a ruse and just enjoyed herself. They were all enjoying themselves. Excuse me, someone said, interrupting a lively discussion about whom they'd each buy a drink for in the cantina. The whole line looked up. There were two women standing on the sidewalk with bakery boxes. One of them cleared her throat. We heard that people were camping out for Star Wars. That's us, Troy said, one only slightly less enthusiastically than he said it yesterday. Where's everybody else? She asked. Are they around the back? Do you do this in shifts? It's just us, Elena said. We're the cupcake gals, the other woman said. We thought we'd bring Star Wars cupcakes for the line. Great, Troy said. The cupcake gals held on tight to their boxes. It's just, the first woman said, we were going to take a photo of the whole line and post it on Instagram. I can help you there, Elena said. Those cupcakes were not going to just walk away, not on Elena's watch. Elena took a selfie of their line, the cupcake girl and the theater employee all holding Star Wars cupcakes. It looked like a snapshot from a crowd and promised to post it across all her channels. The lighting was perfect, magic hour, no filter necessary. The gals were completely satisfied and left both boxes of cupcakes. This is the first time I've been happy that there were only 3 of us, Elena said, helping herself to a second cupcake. It was frosted to look like Chewbacca. You saved these cupcakes, Gabe said. Those women were gonna walk away with them. I know, Elena said. I could see it in their eyes. His cupcake looked like Darth Vader and his tongue was black. I'm really good at selfies, Elena said, especially for someone with short arms. Great job, Troy said. You'll make someone a great provider someday. That day's today, she said, leaning back against the theater. You're both welcome. Troy stretched, kicking out his feet. Cupcake coma. How many did you eat? Gabe asked. 4, Troy said. I took down the Jedi Council. Time for a little midday siesta. The Force is sleepins. It was the warmest day yet. Elena wondered if she could take a nap too. Maybe not. It seemed even weirder to be asleep on the street in the middle of the day than at night. You hate the prequels more than anyone I've met, Gabe said, licking his thumb. These cupcakes are really good. You should tweet about them again. I don't hate the prequels, she said. We ranked our top 30 characters and the only prequel character you listed was Queen Amidala. That was the only prequel character Elena knew. I mean, you must really hate them, he said. All right, she said. I feel like I owe you a debt after you helped me last night. You do. Not quite a life debt, but I did save you from peeing your pants twice. So I'm gonna tell you a secret, but you have to promise not to use it against me. Gabe reached over Elena's leg to get another cupcake. How could she possibly have a dark secret involving the Star Wars prequels? Do you promise? She asked. Sure, I promise. I've never seen the prequels. What? Gabe spat crumbs all over both of them. Elena shook them out of her ponytail. How could that happen? It didn't happen, she said. I never saw them. Was it against your religion? Are you some sort of Star Wars purist? Sort of, Elena said. My dad was. He wouldn't let me see them. Did he lock you in a tower? No, he just told me they were terrible. He said they'd corrupt my love of Star Wars. And you never thought of watching them anyway? Not really. It's my dad. How does he feel about the sequels? Are you here undercover? I don't know, Elena said. I haven't heard from him. Gabe looked confused. He's sort of in Florida. Sort of in Florida is a band name, Gabe said. Don't have Troy, she said. I won't. He'd probably make us watch all 3 movies on his phone. Elena looked down. Now you're probably thinking that I really am a fake geek girl. I try not to think that about anybody, Gabe said. If anything, this makes you an uber Star Wars nerd, a Star Wars hipster. You're like one of those people who only listen to music on vinyl. Do you think I should watch the prequels? She asked. How would I know? I mean, I'd watch them. I could know there was more Star Wars out there that I hadn't tapped. You could have double the Star Wars in your life. Did the prequels corrupt your love of Star Wars? Gabe gave her a very Han Solo-like grin. It was already corrupt, babe. This was not the Gabe she'd been sitting next to for 2 days. I don't know, he said more seriously. I saw the prequels before the original trilogy. What? It was Elena's turn to be shocked. That's all wrong. That's a perversion. It's not. I think it's how George Lucas intended it. It's the higher order. George Lucas doesn't even know what he intended, Elena said. He can't even decide who shot first. I saw the prequels in the theater, Gabe said. When I was a kid, I thought they were awesome. And now? She asked. They're my first love, he said. I can't be objective. Elena hugged herself. I don't think I'll ever watch them. I feel like I'd be letting my dad down. Like, he's going to show up someday and ask whether I've seen Attack of the Clones, and if I say yes, he'll take off again. Gabe looked like he was thinking. So, he said, you won't mind if I spoil them for you? I guess not, she said. I mean, I already know what happens. Gabe sat up straight and held both hands up between them. Turmoil has engulfed the Great Republic. When Troy woke up from his nap, he didn't even ask what they were doing. He just joined in. His Yoda impression was uncanny. I knew you hadn't seen the prequels, Troy confided in Elena. There were some pretty obvious gaps in your understanding of the Galactic Senate. Troy's girlfriend, Sandra, brought them all pizza that night, and when she got there, she joined the dramatic reenactment. She said they had to rewind so she could elaborate for Elena on how dashing Obi-Wan was. Ewan McGregor, she groaned. I made Troy grow a beard after the second movie. Troy and Sandra and Gabe acted out a lightsaber battle that brought tears to Elena's eyes. Probably because they were all 3 singing the John Williams music. Elena knew the prequel music. She'd listened to all the scores. Some moviegoers stopped on their way out of the theater to watch. Elena snapped a photo when Gabe fell to the ground. Hashtag epic, hashtag nightfall, hashtag online. Everyone clapped. When the crowd cleared, Elena noticed her mom parked at the curb. Elena jumped up and ran over. Are you coming home? Her mom asked. No, she said. Do you want to get in line? No way, you get this craziness from your dad, not me. The night was clear and cold. Sandra had talked manager Mark into refilling Elena's hot water bottle at the coffee machine. Elena hugged it under their sleeping bag. Hey, Gabe said, I got you something. He handed her a movie theater cup, one of the new Star Wars ones. Tonight you can pee in a collector's item. Ha ha. Elena said. Did we eat all the cupcakes? Gabe handed her the box. There was one left, a very lonely C-3PO. Elena picked up her phone and took a photo of it. Then went to Instagram. Hashtag last droid standing. Her phone battery was still 70% charged and she only had 24 hours to get through. So Elena decided to indulge herself by thumbing through her Instagram feed, reading the comments on her posts from the last few days. Her friends had all hearted them and left funny comments. God, Elena missed her friends. Not that Troy and Gabe weren't great. She definitely missed them. Even Gabe. Especially Gabe. Her first post from Monday had the most comments. The photo of the line. Is that Gabe? Someone had posted. Gabers! It's Geekle! Elena's friend Jocelyn had posted. Ickle Geekle! Geekle? Elena thought. She quickly texted Jocelyn. Who's Geekle? Geekle! Jocelyn texted back. From Spanish class. He sits at the back. He's kind of geeky. Is that why you call him Geekle? I don't know. Jocelyn sent. Ickle Geekle, tell him I said hi. Elena looked over at Gabe. He did look sort of familiar. Jocelyn had nicknames for everyone, usually mean ones. Ickle Geekle, whatever that meant, was mild. Jocelyn herself wasn't very mean once you got to know her. She just thought she was funnier than she actually was. And she couldn't stand silence. She'd fill every second with stupid jokes. Gabe, from Spanish class. Elena tried to picture him without his P code. While she was staring, Gabe took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "You don't wear glasses," she blurted out. "What?" he said, putting his glasses back on. "In school," she said. "You don't wear glasses." Gabe's face fell. "No, I don't." Gabe? Geekle? His Spanish name was Gabriel. Elena had never talked to him. She'd never really looked at him, which sounded worse than it was. Elena didn't go around looking at people. She minded her own business. This was bad. This was very bad. "I'm sorry," she said. "Why?" "I didn't recognize you." He shrugged. "Why would you?" "Because we're in class together." "You apparently never noticed," he said. "There's no crime there." "Did you recognize me?" Gabe turned to look at her, rolling his eyes. "Of course. We've been in school together for 4 years. I don't know very many people." "Yeah, why should you pay attention to anyone else? You've got your clique." That was true, but not the way he was saying it. "We're not a clique," Elena said. "Gang, then." "Gabe? Army? Why do you dislike us so much?" "Because you're jerks," he said. "Because you call me Geekle. What does that even mean?" I don't know. I don't call you that." "Because you don't know I exist." "I know now." Gabe started to say something, then shook his head. "Jocelyn just has a big mouth," Elena said. "She's harmless." "To you. You guys think you're so far above everyone else." "I don't think that." "You walk around in a clump, looking all cute and matchy, and cast your clever little insults down on us plebes. We never intentionally match," Elena said. "Whatever." They both sat back, arms crossed. It's not like that," she said. "We're not a clique. We're just friends." Gabe huffed. "Do you know why I know you and your friends, but you don't know me and my friends?" "Why?" "Because we don't get in your way. We don't have nicknames for you, and if we did, we wouldn't shout them every day when you walked in Spanish." "That's just Jocelyn," Elena said. "That's your whole vibe." I don't even have a vibe." So you hate me," she said. "You hated me before I even got in line." "I didn't hate you," he said. "You're just part of them." "I'm also part of this." "What's this? Star Wars?" "I don't have to like you because you like Star Wars. I don't have to like every bonehead with a stormtrooper tattoo." "No," Elena said. "I'm part of this. Part of the line." "What does that count for?" "I don't know," she said, "but it should count for something." "Look, I'm sorry Jocelyn calls you names. She's a loudmouth. She's been a loudmouth since 4th grade. We're all just used to her. And if you've noticed me at all at school, you've noticed that I don't exactly reach out. I have classes where I don't talk to anybody. Nobody in my math class even knows my name." "I don't believe that." "I'm really sorry that I've never talked to you before, but you've never talked to me either. We're talking now, right?" Gabe gritted his teeth. "I hate it when she calls me Geekle." "She calls me a lay nerd," Elena said. "And short stuff. Wednesday Addams, Virgin Daiquiri, Ukulele, Lely, My Little Pony, Thumbelina, Rumpelstiltskin." Gabe laughed a little. "Why do you let her call you all that?" "I don't even hear it anymore," Elena said. "Plus, it's different. I'm her friend. I can have her stop calling her names if you want." "It doesn't even matter," he said. They were quiet for a minute. Elena was trying to figure out whether she was mad. She wasn't. "Why didn't you tell me," she asked, "that we already knew each other?" "I didn't want you to call me Geekle," Gabe said. "I didn't want it to catch on." Elena nodded. "We should sleep," he said. "This is our last night." He pulled up his legs and folded his arms. How did he sleep like that? Elena curled up as much as she could. She kept trying to get comfortable. It was so bright under the lights. "Gabe," she said after 10 minutes or so. "Are you asleep?" "Sort of." "Are you still mad?" Gabe sighed. "In a larger sense, yes. At you in this moment, no." "Okay, good." Elena hunkered down again. She watched the stars driving by. She'd be really, really glad to be home tomorrow night. After the movie. "The movie?" "Gabe," she said. "What?" "I can't sleep." "Why not?" "Star Wars." Thursday, December 17th of 2015. Something strange happened at 6 a.m. Darth Vader got in line. It was one of Troy's friends. He kicked Troy's feet off the cooler and shouted, "The Force Awakens!" "Yeah, we've heard that one," Gabe grumbled, sitting up. Elena was watching everything from a gap between her head and her sleeping bag. I haven't slept in a week, Gabe said. I think you're gonna die of that. I think I'm dead. Troy woke up and welcomed his friend, who eventually got in line behind them. Elena and Gabe walked together to Starbucks. She gave him some of her baby wipes. They were both in dire need of a shower. Gabe looked like he was growing a beard. It was coming in redder than his hair. Elena painted new Yodas on her cheeks. You into Star Wars? The barista asked. Nope, Gabe said. Yes, Elena said. I'm gonna see it tonight, the barista said. Midnight showing. Cool, Elena said. There are already people in line over there, he said. Have you seen them? Just 3 miserable dorks sitting on the sidewalk. Elena smiled brightly. That's us. What? We are the 3 dorks. Well, 2 of the 3. The barista was mortified. He gave them their coffee for free. May the force be with you, Elena said. When they got back, there were 4 new people in line. By noon, there were 20, at least half of them in costume. By 3, there were portable speakers on the sidewalk, and someone kept playing the Victory Parade music from The Phantom Menace over and over again. It was only a minute and a half long. Elena consented to a 90-second dance with Troy. Gabe turned him down. 50 more people showed up by dinner time, and some of them brought pizza. Elena went up and down the line, posing for photos and posting them to Instagram. Her hashtags were inspired. Troy, who'd changed into his pilot costume, was a little wary of all the newcomers. Jar Jar come latelys. We have to keep our guard up, he said. These people aren't part of the line covenant. They might try to surge at the end. We still have our tickets, Gabe said. I'll be the first person to walk into that theater, Troy said. You'll be second, and Elena will be third. We are the line. These are just day guests. So are we sitting together? She asked. Oh, Troy said. Well, we can sit near each other. I've actually got a bunch of friends coming. We can sit together, Gabe said, looking at Elena but somehow not looking at Elena. If you want. Sure, she said. Let's see this through. The newspaper photographer came back. The line wrapped around the block. Mark came out with a loudspeaker to give everybody directions. We've got 2 hours, Gabe said to Elena. I think we've only got time for a tattoo or a nickname. You pick. Let's not talk about nicknames, she said. They packed up their stuff and Mark said they could leave it in his office during the movie. Thank you for not being drunk or disorderly, he said, and for not littering. I hope you camp outside a different theater next time. I'd be happy to make a few recommendations. No chance, Troy said. This is home. Elena bounced up and down, pointing from side to side. What's that? Gabe asked. It's my Star Wars dance, she said, bouncing and pointing. After a few seconds, he joined her. The dance traveled down the line. From the street, they must have looked like the Peanuts characters dancing. There was a surge at the end. Troy was right. The line turned into a mob when Mark opened the doors. But Mark shouted at everyone and made sure the 3 original line members got in first. Gabe and Elena grabbed seats in the very middle of the theater. Oh my god, Elena said. This is the most comfortable chair I've ever sat in. I feel like a princess. You look like a ruffian, Gabe said, but his eyes were closed. It's so warm, he said. I love inside. Inside is the best, she agreed. Let's never go outside again. The theater filled up and everyone was loud and excited. Elena got a large popcorn and a small pop, and she went to the bathroom twice in the hour before the show started. If I have to pee during the movie, I'm using this cup. It's what you do best, Gabe said. I can't believe I made it, she said. I can't believe we're here. I can't believe there's a new Star Wars movie. I can't believe how much I want to shower, Gabe said. Elena started doing her Star Wars dance again. It worked just as well in a chair. When the lights went down, she squealed. She'd made it. She'd camped outside, and she hadn't given up. And now it was here, and now it was starting. The opening crawl began. Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Elena felt all the stress and tension, all the adrenaline of the last 4 days drain out of her body. She felt like she was sinking deep, deep into the warm, plush chair. She'd made it. She was here. It was happening. Friday, December 18th, 2015. Elena woke up with her head on Gabe's shoulder. In a puddle of spit, someone was trying to climb over her. Excuse me, the person said. Why would anyone be leaving during the opening credits? The opening credits. Star Wars movies didn't have opening credits. Elena looked at Gabe. His head had fallen to the side and his mouth was open. She shook his arm violently. Gabe, wake up, Gabe. He sat up like he'd been hit by lightning. What? We fell asleep. Elena said, we fell asleep. What? He looked at the screen. Oh my God. Then back at Elena. When did you fall asleep? Immediately, she said. As soon as the lights went off. Oh my God. I saw the crawl, Gabe said. And a ship, I think? We missed the whole thing, Elena said. Her chin was trembling. We missed the whole thing, Gabe repeated. We waited for a week and then we missed the whole thing. He rested his elbows on his knees and buried his face in his hands. His shoulders started shaking. Elena laid her hand on him, on the wet spot she'd left on his sleeve. She quickly pulled her hand away and wiped it on her jeans. Gabe sat back in his seat with his fists still in his hair. He was laughing so hard he looked like he was in pain. Elena stared at him in shock. And then she started giggling. Elena, Gabe! Troy was moving with a crowd toward the door. Was it everything? I'm speechless, Elena shouted. Gabe just kept laughing. We slept on the street, he sputtered out. You peed in a dumpster. Elena laughed so hard her stomach hurt. There were moments in the laughing when she felt totally miserable and wanted to cry. She missed the whole thing. But that just made her laugh harder. What do we do now? Gabe asked. Hit the street? Camp out until the next showing? I'm going home, Elena said. I'm gonna sleep for 12 hours. Good idea, he said, sobering up a little. Me too. Elena looked at him, at his curly brown hair and red stubble. She wondered what he'd look like when he hadn't been sleeping rough for a few days. She'd know this if she ever picked up her head at school. We could come back tonight, she said. We might be able to get tickets. I actually already have tickets, Gabe said, running his finger through his hair. I was gonna come back at 7 and see it again. Oh, Elena said. Cool. You can have one. I don't want to take someone else's ticket. It was for my cousin, and he can wait a day, Gabe said. You've been waiting a week. I've been waiting my whole life, she said. Gabe smiled at her. Elena smiled back. Meet you tonight, he said. Elena nodded. First person here gets in line. And there we have it, guys. That was a very, very sweet, innocent story. I'm not gonna lie, it felt kind of like a children's story, but I still like it as an innocent, sweet little way to get us started into our reading adventure. I do want to go through different genres while we're doing this. I hope you'll join me on this ride. But this video is long enough already. I don't think I have anything left to say to this story. It's kind of leaving me a bit empty. And I'm also hungry. So all that's left for me to say is thank you guys so much for watching this video. Y entonces nos vemos la próxima vez. Y bye!